Alright guys, since I bought this truck, I've been wanting to make it into a short bed or make the box really short, like 4 feet, 5 feet, somewhere in there. So this section for sure will be coming out of the bed, but the truck doesn't even fit in my garage right now, so hopefully if I cut it down it'll fit. Anyways, let's jump right into it. So I've got all the turbo stuff off of here now and everything's out of the way. I've got some holes cut in the bed from all my messing around I've been doing, and I'm thinking I'm going to end up cutting the bed right about here and then slide it all the way forward to the cab and maybe possibly even bolt it up to the cab. But I've got my come along up here and my cherry picker back here, and let's pull this bed off. So I've got one zip tie, it's a 500-pound zip tie holding the front of the bed up to the rafters there. I'm a little sketched by that, but it seems to be holding good. Just gonna throw my gas cap back on, push out the truck. I've started marking out where I'm going to make my cuts here, right where that pen is, right where the end of the tape measure is, and everything here is going to be gone. That cross member is going to be gone, and then so it's going to be 37 inches is what I'm cutting out. I'm thinking I'm going to mount my bed sides to the cab in the front and maybe make some braces down to the frame. But now I'm going to go through and punch out all of these pins. Get the axle out, get the limiter perches out, and stops out, and then I'm gonna make my cuts. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna go vertical cuts, and then I've got this 1/4-inch plate here, and I'm just gonna plate it on the outside for sure, maybe on the inside. I've got the frame stripped down as far as I need it for right now, with all the leaf springs and stuff out of the way. Hopefully you guys can see these marks and get an idea of how much I'm cutting out of the frame. So it's a pretty good chunk, about 37 inches, and I'm gonna get to cutting it out. So I've got the frames all cleaned up now for the most part, and somehow I gotta pull this cab back to the frame here. I'm just gonna try to lift it right here and then maybe roll the whole cab back. Hopefully I don't drop it on the floor. Looks like the cab's moving anyways, so that's good. Okay, see how unstable we are. Actually, not too bad. Not sure what that noise was, but... Well, here goes nothing. Whew! Luckily that frame was there. I would have been flying. Alright, well, it's looking better. I think I want the cab right there. I'll end up just moving the frame forward, the rear of the frame forward. So I just gotta set this down on the jack stands, and then should be good to move the rear frame forward. And move it back just a little bit more, because it's gonna go forward when I let the jack down. Okay. Pretty excited about how this is looking. So I should be able to just scoot this frame forward somehow. Not entirely sure how I'm going to do that yet. It's on 3 jack stands right now and the front's pretty light. So maybe if I can put the back on the jack and then slide it forward. Okay, so not exactly sure how I'm going to do this yet. But this is pretty light. So try to slide these to the front maybe. And then if I can maybe just lift it, slide it forward. There we go. Yeah, that's looking pretty close to what I wanted. So it's looking real close the way it is right now. You can see how it's kind of lining up there. Obviously I just got to push that gap together. And this side looks pretty good. It's pretty straight top to bottom right now. The truck's looking pretty small. So that's exciting. Let's check out the other side real quick. This side's a little tighter right now, but it's also looking pretty good. It might have to go down a little bit. Yeah, it looks like it has to go down a little bit, but looking good. So this actually is going to turn out good, I think. So I just want to get a measurement here really quick. So from the back of the cab to the bumper is roughly 62 inches. And it's looking short. I like it. It's going to be so fun. Axle's going to be right here, like right behind the cab. Yeah, this should work out good. The top is flush right now, and there's a slight bit of a difference on the bottom. And then I'm thinking I'm going to weld the plate on all the way from here to here, roughly on each side. That's why I went with the straight cut. I wanted to make it easy to weld back together without any issues. So it'll also keep the frame kind of where it was. I want to keep the same level plane and not have it tipped up like that or tipped down like this. So I'm going to get to welding this frame up, and then we'll see what happens from there. I've just got my frame all cleaned up here. All the welds on the factory frame edges, I have those done, and I got this one ground down so my plate will lay flat. And then I just cut a 12-inch by 5-inch plate here, and I'm just gonna weld it in something about like that. It's a lot skinnier on this end, so I just made it 5-inch. I didn't want to make it, to the shape of the frame because that would take a long time. But I'm pretty sure this will be plenty strong if I go like this. And then I'm just going to do that on both sides. So it got a little rough down here on the bottom, but otherwise I got it welded a rectangle all the way around. All 4 sides. You can see at the top there where the frame was welded back together, and kind of at the bottom there. But yeah, this side's all done. And I just got to do the other side now. But this frame should be plenty strong. So I think if it breaks anywhere, it's going to be somewhere other than where that plate is. Okay, both sides are welded up. So theoretically now, I should be able to stand on the back of this. It's not an issue. Yeah. Seems good. This axle, I just have to cut off these old leaf spring purchase and the old shock mounts on each side, and then I gotta grind down the axle, get the welds off here, make this nice and smooth. That way my new mounting brackets will fit over the axle nice and square. So I'm going to jump into that. I've got my square tubing welded to the frame here now, and what I'm going to end up doing is taking my front mount and putting it right up against, kind of flush with where the chamfer starts on the outside there, and then that'll be welded on like that, and then I should have all the support I need going forward. So, and then at the back here, it's looking like I kind of got things lined up to where I want it to be. Kind of right with that big hole there is where I want the center of the axle to be, and that's looking about right. So I've got the front 4-link mounts on here. I just have 1/4 inch square tubing up there, and then I just mounted the plates directly to that, and so both sides are done. At this point, I'm going to slide the axle underneath and get it mounted up. Try to get my angles right here. That way my drive shaft angles are all good to go, and it should be pretty smooth sailing from there. I just got to throw the shocks on and the panhard bar, and everything should be done as far as the 4-link goes. I got them adjusted to the middle right now, so I should have the same amount of adjustment out as in, just to give myself the adjustment I would need in case I need to move it forward or backwards or twist. So I'm going to get to throwing this in and welding it in, and then I'm going to build some new brake lines for the axle because the old ones rode right up against the tube, and with the new mounts they're going to be on the back side of the tube, so I'll have to make some brake lines that come up and around the shock mount too, because that might also be down here. Haha, this is looking quite interesting if I do say so myself. So I've got every angle just about right now, a little bit of fine tuning, and then I'll weld up these brackets onto the axles here, and I'll figure out my shock mounts later. But gotta figure out my drive shaft angle here, and definitely looks a little funky, that's for sure. Definitely looks like a mini truck. I've got my rear mounts tacked in on the inside, so only the inside plate on both sides is tacked in, and I'm going to end up removing the axle, sliding it out, and then welding both plates back on. And then I can run my brake lines around everything. I just got this bracket cut here for my shocks. So my ears will mount on this side, and then I'll be welding it on right there. I just used an angle finder on these guys to check, to make sure they're both the same on each side. And then I set it on the pinion here to get my angle right for the drive shaft. So that's pretty simple. And then my panhard bar is right here, and it's going to end up sitting somewhat like that. And then it's going to lay flat in the frame, and I'm going to weld it up in there somewhat like that. For my 2 shock mounts, I've just got them vice gripped in place. I made sure there's 3.5 inches sticking out of the frame. I got a straight edge across, and then I measured back to the rear of the frame on each side to make sure that's equal. So these are ready to be tacked into place. So really at this point I'm just going to go through and weld up everything I just tacked in place, all the shock mounts, and like I said, the rear mounts on the 4-links, and then also for my panhard bar, both those mounts. I've got my shock setup started here, and I'm right in the middle on my adjustment for my lower mount, and centered here with my brackets. I'm level, everything is good side to side, forward and backwards. So I'm just going to tack my upper mount in place and pull the shock off and then weld it all together. And just as easy as that, I actually have this all done. So all my suspension's done on this side. I'm gonna throw the shock on that side really quick and make my drive shaft still. I just put a couple lug nuts in the tires on. The panhard bar isn't tight yet either. It's just kind of loose. So I'm gonna let it off the jack and see what it looks like here. It looks pretty solid so far. Let's see if I stand on it. Got a little side-to-side wiggle because I don't have the right bolt in the panhard bar, but actually seems like it's working okay. See if you can see that shock moving. Definitely sitting a little lower in the rear now, so I either have to probably move those shock mounts up or lower the front. But I'd like to lower the front. But it looks so good now. Nice shiny shocks on here. And I'm going to wheel it outside and throw a fresh coat of paint on everything here. Just going to go gloss black with everything. Okay, so I'm going to cut about 36 inches off of the front of the truck bed. And I'll just have the whole front of it exposed. I put a couple marks on the bed and then I just snapped a chalk line here, so if that doesn't tell you how serious I am about this, then I don't know what does. Okay, so it's looking like a lot of rust fell out, but it's looking pretty small. So I'm thinking I'm gonna cut it right down the middle here and then cut out the bed sides on both sides and then leave either a little chunk in here or a little bit bigger of a chunk. Those mounts right there are where I put in the blocks for the shock coilover mounts. So it can't even be that far up, it's got to be farther back than that. So I'm not sure where that's going to end up yet, but I'm just going to cut the inner fenders out, and you know, all of the bed up here is going to be cut out. As far as how much I'm going to cut out of this bed, I can either go about 15 inches or 22 inches because I want to either leave the gas cap or completely take it out. I can't go right in the middle. I mean, I could, but that would just be wrong. So I'm gonna get to taking these bed sides off and try to measure to see where my receiver hitch is gonna be, because that's gotta mount to the frame nice, and then I'm probably gonna put some plates on the frame to keep it a little stronger. So I don't know how well you guys can see, but the frame did bend when I did that last wheelie with the zip ties, and I'm going to try to strengthen this whole area up, maybe make a plate that goes from the plate there all the way back to where the receiver hitch is going to mount up, and that's going to be somewhere, you know, right in here after I cut the frame down. The tailgate is already off, so I'm just going to work on getting the bed sides off. When I did the wheelie with the zip ties, it also broke my welds here and just kind of peeled my brackets off of the cab, so I'll end up fixing that up too at some point. Ouch! He still works. Yeah, well, since this got bent, I think I'm gonna have to use a hammer. Yep, that worked. When in doubt, hammer it out. See if I can drop this on my toes. Oh, you know what? You know what would help? If I remove the wiring for the taillight, because I definitely didn't do that. Take two. Let's see if I'm smart enough this time. Yeah. Yep. Okay, yeah. 3 bolts is all that's holding this bedside on. Oh look, a rock. Well, maybe I just have to hit it with the hammer on this side. Something moved. We might be good. Might be. I'm gonna move this tailgate. Oh, yep. Scratch the paint. Well, these bed sides are kind of stuck in here, so I'm going to pull the truck out, pull the bed sides out, pull the truck back in. First things first, let's pull off this bumper. And then this receiver hitch shouldn't be too bad. Oh, that is not happy. Ouch! Wow. That is on there. Well, these are some pretty rusted bolts, so I might be cutting them, which really sucks. Well, I think I'll just, I'll be using a breaker bar to try to get these off for the next 40 minutes. And then I'll pick you guys back up after I get them off. I ended up having to cut all the bolts that were holding on the receiver hitch. And the ones on the bumper came off okay. But now I'm going to, I marked out where I'm cutting the frame here. And I'm just going to push the truck outside and then cut the frame right there. It's right at 22 inches. And then the bed itself will be just about 3 feet, maybe slightly more than 3 feet long after I get it all back together. Well, I got it cleaned up pretty good, and I cleaned up a patch here and there, and I'm going to weld a plate across from here to there because this is my weak point right now. And it's going to come all the way back to here. My bumper bolts on right here. And then the hitch will bolt on right here. I marked out my 2 pieces for bracing the frame here. They're 3.5 inches wide, 25 inches long. And the plate is a 1/4 inch thick. So this would be really nice if I had a plasma cutter. But I'll be grinding this and cutting it for the next hour or so. I have both the plates cut out now. And I just got a new welder, so I haven't tried doing much welding with it yet, but I'm going to weld these on, and we'll see how it goes. This should be fine right about there. That weld is a lot better. It's starting to get dialed in now. I'll just pick you guys back up once I get this all welded up. Both sides are on now. Started off kind of rough, but I got her dialed in a little better by the end there. The welder and myself, actually, because I haven't done MIG in quite a while. But anyways, both sides are on now. I dropped my shocks down, and I'll just throw a blanket over them and hit this with a fresh coat of black paint. Good as new. Gotta get this up in here a little bit. All that rust. Exposed rust out of there. One on the top here. Alright, that looks good enough for me. And the frame should be pretty strong. Now I just gotta mount up my bumper and my hitch wherever it is, right there. So it shouldn't be too bad. The only holes I have left to drill, so this is the front bumper hole, and then I'll have to drill another hole somewhere back here for the other bumper hole. It might actually end up being right where the slot is. Hopefully that's not the case. Okie dokie, let's see how this is gonna work out. Ugh. Wow, this is pretty heavy. There we go. Well, looks like they're lining up pretty well so far. I don't know if you can tell, but I did get brand new grade 8 bolts for this receiver hitch. So I don't want it busting off of here. That'd be bad. Well, let's see how badly I screwed up this bumper. Well, that sucks. So, yeah, no, that's not good. That ends up in a really bad spot, but I think the bumper is just going to end up resting on the receiver hitch, so that's fine. So I will just drill that out and make it work. Well, it's looking pretty small. Bumper is bolted on. Receiver hitch is bolted on. And we're looking good. I'll have a little extra wire back here, but you know, that's fine. That'll be okay. There's nothing zip ties can't fix. Now it looks like the box is about a third of the truck. Maybe, yeah, maybe somewhere in there. So that is looking quite good and very short. Let's see, so about back of the cab to the front of the bumper, about 40.5 inches. But the frame itself is, you know, 37.5, 38 inches back here. So about just over 3 feet box, and definitely should be mini. It looks like my exhaust is probably going to be coming down and hitting my receiver hitch right here. But let's throw it on and see what it looks like. Well, that's definitely not going to work. I'm going to cut this down pipe right about here. And then it needs to do a little more bendy this way, that way, and then out the side right behind the rear tire. Okay, let's see how bad this looks. About 6 inches too short, so I gotta see if I can find another piece of 4-inch pipe. I did find a small 4-inch piece here, so let's try welding this together, see how it goes. Well, there's some pretty bad looking welds, but it's sealed up nonetheless. So let's see if it'll fit. And take out a light in the meantime. It's hitting the bottom of the receiver hitch, but I think I can fix that with my mount. Originally, this was just kind of coming underneath the frame right here, but now I gotta make it come across 6 inches lower because of that receiver hitch, and hopefully I can mount it on right there. Got that hanger in there and welded up really quick. It's had a little bit of an angle, but it works. I'm all done messing with everything here now. Exhaust is on, everything's hooked back up. The only thing I really have left to do is pull the truck out, clean up the shop a little bit, sweep all the mess out of the way. And then I'm going to bring the bed sides in and cut them down. And they're going to weigh about half as much as they are now. I'm taking off quite a bit of material. So I'm going to jump in and do that really quick. Let's see what this is going to look like and how good of a job I did. I'm going to have a pretty big gap to fill right there. Unless maybe I could grind down the bottom and then straighten it out. But this big dent right here is not helping me. So I think if I have it somewhere in there, it should work. As long as it's holding together, I don't really care what it looks like. I'm thinking this is looking pretty rough, but I'm also thinking I don't really care that much. So I'm just gonna start putting some tacks in place where it's lined up, and then just tweak it as I go, and it is what it is. This end over here is, the body line is not matched up at all, so I'm gonna have to do some bending there. I haven't been able to do much welding on some thin metal with this welder yet, so I'm thinking I'm just gonna send it and see what happens. I have it at least, welded together. This welder is really not working too well for thin stuff, but they say, if you're not a good welder, be a good grinder. So I'm not going to worry about filling all these little cracks in. If I care about the body, I'm going to put some filler in here and sand it all down. But I'm going to go through with my grinder and just kind of smooth it all out for now. I think that's good enough for this side. And yeah, I still got some cracks and stuff in here, but I don't want to do a bunch of grinding. I had to do some reconstructive surgery down here because this went in way farther, and well, this whole body line was different. So this kind of turned right here versus right here, and then I had to make this crease right here, and I ended up with a little bit of a gap here, but it's kind of flat at least for now, but it's good enough that I can at least put it on. And then if I end up filling this, then I can do that at the same time as everything else. So this is about how big it looks like it's going to be. I'm not going to show the process of doing the other side. It's basically going to be the exact same thing. I did get both sides done now, so let's see if we can get these mounted on here. Okay, both of those guys are started on there. Now the back of this looks kind of high, but if I look down the side here, we're looking pretty straight. So I'm actually I don't think I need to really lift up on the back of this much. Let's see if I can get the other side started. Okay, let's see if I can get this slipped into here. Looks like the top is started. And the bottom is in. This side's a little more floppy because we got the rust hole. I think I gotta put the tailgate in here somehow. This is gonna be pretty tricky because somehow this is all gonna be held in. Once I get the tailgate on, I gotta pull it together. This is not working like I was hoping it would. Okay, let's try that. Got a jack holding up this side and a jack stand on the other side. And I'm hopeful. Okay, that side's in. That side's in. She's a little crooked. Okay. That side's in. And this side's in. My bumper looks like it needs a little help, like it's sagging. But I'm not too worried about it. I'm working over on the passenger side here now, and I whipped up this little brace for the top of the box, and then I'll have 2 braces on each side. So I'm just going to install this guy if I can. I think it goes the other way. Kind of like that. Got all the braces in and it looks like it's holding up decent. It's a little, you know, you can't run it like a normal truck bed, but you're not using it like a normal truck bed, so it doesn't matter. But it's a little shaky here and there. I'm just gonna slide this tailgate off to the side, and it's time to put some taillights in. Okay, over to the other side. Alright, I just got it pulled outside and decided I'd show you guys what it looks like. And it's looking pretty weird. I removed the antenna, but that's a pretty good side profile. The cab, the box is shorter than the door, so it does look pretty weird now, which is awesome. And you can see in the bed. I'll just pop the hood really quick, show you guys what it looks like under there. Just small block Ford, heads, cam, and intake, and a TSP throttle, body, elbow, LS throttle body, and basically everything else is stock. I just kind of gutted what I didn't need. And then my Holley Terminator X is right there. So pretty simple under here. The truck does look a little funky from the rear now because the bottom of the bed is missing. So you can kind of see right into the frame and all that, but I don't care too much. Not really going for looks all that much on this truck anyways. I do want to start up the truck and give you guys a short, quick little walk around of it. Pop the hood. Alright, let's go for a drive real quick. Sounds good as always. Woo! Definitely rides a little rough.
70 miles an hour and just break some moves.
That's going to be all for this video, guys. Remember to please comment down below whether or not I should paint the truck blue. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.